This pandemic is impacting all of us in different ways, whether it's your health, the health of a loved one, or an economic battle and you're struggling to make ends meet.
This virus is negatively impacting some groups more than others. Denver 7's Megan Lopez goes 360 on the disproportionate effects of the coronavirus.
Outside the governor's mansion on East 8th Avenue in Denver, a silent type of protest. The kind where pictures speak louder than words. Notice after notice of landlords demanding rent during a time when millions are without work. COVID-19 is taking a toll on our health and finances, but some groups are feeling its devastating impacts more than others. In this 360, you'll hear from health experts, an economist, someone studying the income disparities, and an education professor about the disproportionate effects of the coronavirus. On the health side,
health disparities have always existed for the African American community.
Decades, even centuries of inequality have created a divide, leaving people of color with less access to healthcare, housing, and higher education. All factors putting them at higher risk for conditions like obesity, diabetes, asthma, hypertension, and more. Medical conditions that make the coronavirus more dangerous.
It's not that they're getting infected more often, is that when they do get infected, their underlying medical conditions, those are the kind of things that wind them up in the ICU and ultimately give them a higher death rate.
In Colorado, data shows African Americans make up more than 7% of COVID cases and 6% of the deaths, despite only representing 4% of the population. Hispanics, meanwhile, make up nearly 35% of the cases and 17% of the deaths, but only represent 21% of the state's population.
They are socially predisposed to coronavirus exposure.
On the financial side,
well, we're kind of living through the tale of two pandemics.
The virus is also having a disproportionate effect. Chuck Collins is the director of the program on inequality for the progressive-leaning Institute of Policy Studies.
At the very top, you have 400 billionaires whose combined wealth is equal to the bottom 64% of U.S. households combined. So we're in a period of, I would characterize, grotesque inequality.
A wealth gap, he says, is worsening during the pandemic.
22 million Americans have lost their jobs. The combined wealth of U.S. billionaires has increased 10%.
Without addressing these inequalities, he worries the wealth gap could become too large to overcome.
Some people can't just be in their yachts and everybody's going to be paddling in little canoes or not have a boat at all.
Across Colorado,
it's hitting the stay-at-home restaurants. It's hitting the gyms.
Small businesses are feeling the brunt of the economic impact of COVID.
Their profit margins are very small, right? And so if they're not working for several weeks, they could go underwater.
The federal government has brought some financial relief to small businesses through the Paycheck Protection Program. But within 2 weeks, the $349 billion ran out.
The people who got the money were those who were richer because they were better connected to the banking system in general.
Bigger companies like Shake Shack and Potbelly were given tens of millions, while some truly small businesses were left out. Some are returning that money, others are not. Now the government is working on more funding.
They should give the money to small business, to really small businesses as well, and not target these larger franchises.
The coronavirus is also disproportionately affecting students.
Well, the reality is that when kids are not in school, their lives, their daily interactions, their opportunities to learn change.
Kevin Wellner is a professor at CU Boulder's School of Education. He says the achievement gaps are widening as students are forced to learn from home.
You have tremendously unequal situations.
Part of it has to do with access to technology and the internet, but also how much a parent can help.
But if that child also has a parent at home who's there to work with the child, that child has an additional advantage.
Parents in blue-collar jobs might not be there to help. Students with special needs are also at a particular disadvantage because they need more one-on-one attention. Wellner says when kids do come back to class, there's two things adults need to remember. First,
I think we need to be forgiving our children and changing our expectations. There's no God-given standard that says at the end of the fourth grade year, you're supposed to know X, Y, and Z.
And second, that schools will need funding to catch up.
If we could bail out airlines, we could bail out our children.
All across Colorado, the coronavirus is affecting different groups differently. The ACLU hopes COVID-19 will serve as a case study.
I think that if nothing else, this pandemic should really cause us to not only acknowledge and think about the privilege that many of us have, but more so to really think about those that lack that sort of privilege.
Megan Lopez, Denver 7.
If we miss your perspective in our reporting, email us at 360@thedenverchannel.com, or you can weigh in right now on the Denver 7 Facebook and Twitter pages.